This is the Well Body Podcast with your host, Renee, the place where everyday women learn how to stop running on empty, reset their energy, nourish their bodies, and feel strong again. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to the Well Body Podcast. If you've been following along with this series, you'll know we've been unpacking the foundations of gut health, what it is, why it matters, and how it influences almost every system in your body. And today's conversation is a really important one because one of the most common things women say to me when they start working with me, or in general, just from conversations I've had on Instagram or in person, is, Renee, I eat well, I eat healthy, I eat salads, I cook at home, but why am I still so tired? They're doing all the things. They're buying organic food where possible. They're trying to eat more vegetables. They've cut back on their ultra-processed foods, but they still feel flat, foggy, exhausted, reliant on coffee, and like their energy crashes halfway through the day. And this is where gut health actually becomes a huge missing piece of the puzzle, because your energy is not just determined by what you eat. It is determined by what you digest, what you absorb, how your blood sugar responds, what your gut microbes do with your food, and how your nervous system is functioning. So today, we're going to break down why you can eat healthy and still feel exhausted, how your gut bacteria influence your energy, how stress impacts digestion, and why caffeine often becomes a crutch when the gut isn't working properly. So let's get into it. We're going to start with nutrient intake versus nutrient absorption. So one of the biggest misconceptions in nutrition is that eating nutrients automatically means your body is receiving them. But the truth is your body only benefits from the nutrient it can digest and absorb. You could be eating a beautiful healthy diet full of leafy greens, protein, whole grains, nuts and seeds, but if your digestion isn't functioning well, your body may not be accessing those nutrients properly. And this is why in clinical nutrition we say you are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. And digestion is actually a very complex physiological process. Food doesn't just magically turn into energy. Your body has to break down food mechanically by chewing. It uses stomach acid and enzymes to break nutrients apart. You release digestive enzymes from the pancreas. You produce bile from the liver and the gallbladder to digest fats. You absorb nutrients through the intestinal wall, and then you transport them into the bloodstream. And a lot can go wrong along the way. For example, low stomach acid can impair iron, zinc, and B12 absorption. Poor fat digestion can reduce absorption of vitamins A, D, E, and K. And inflammation in the gut lining can impair absorption of many micronutrients required for energy production. And those micronutrients are critical because energy production inside your cells depends heavily on nutrients like B vitamins, iron, magnesium, zinc, amino acids, and glucose. These nutrients feed the mitochondria, and if you've heard me talk in podcasts before, you've probably heard me mention mitochondria before, the tiny little energy-producing structures inside every single cell in your body. Dr. Mark Hyman describes it well when he says, your mitochondria are like little power plants inside your cells. They depend on nutrients to generate energy. So if your gut is struggling to absorb nutrients properly, those cellular power plants don't have the fuel they need, which means you still feel tired, okay? So your gut bacteria literally help you to produce energy. Here's where things get really interesting. Your gut microbes aren't just passive passengers, they're actually metabolically active. In fact, the human gut microbiome contains trillions of microbes, and collectively they have more genetic material than the human genome itself. Research published in Nature Reviews Microbiology describes the microbiome as a metabolic organ because of how strongly it influences digestion and energy metabolism. One of the biggest ways microbes influence energy is through fiber fermentation. So when you eat fiber-rich foods like vegetables, legumes, which are things like lentils, pulses, beans, whole grain oats, nuts, seeds, fruit, your body actually cannot digest most of the fiber itself. Instead, fiber travels down to the large intestine where it becomes food for your gut microbes. Your bacteria ferment fiber and produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids, including butyrate, acetate, and propionate. These molecules are incredibly important. Short-chain fatty acids will help fuel the cells of the colon, regulate inflammation, support the immune system, stabilize blood sugar, and influence metabolism. Butyrate in particular is considered one of the most important fuels for the gut lining. And Dr. Tim Spector, one of my favorite gut health researchers and nutrition experts, he's a microbiome researcher at King's College London, explains that the gut microbiome helps extract additional energy from food while producing compounds essential for your metabolic health. So if your gut bacteria are thriving, they actually contribute to energy production. But if your microbiome is struggling, which is often due to low fiber diets, chronic stress, antibiotic use, ultra-processed foods, and poor sleep, then the ecosystem becomes less diverse. And that then can influence metabolism, inflammation, blood sugar, and energy levels. So the food that we eat plays a massive role in how we feel, but the types of foods are even more important. It's not just about getting in your calories. It's not just about hitting your macros with whatever food you can that helps you to hit your macros. We actually need to be a little bit strategic with ensuring we're getting enough food that keeps our fiber intake up, that keeps our diversity strong, so we're eating a variety of different plants, and so that we're fueling and feeding our gut microbes, which in turn is going to help us to absorb nutrients better and help us to feel more energized and able to just do so much more in the day. Okay? So when it comes to one of the most common patterns I see with women who feel exhausted is unstable blood sugar. Energy crashes, mid-afternoon fatigue, strong cravings for sugar or caffeine, and this often links back to what and how we eat. So meals that are very high in refined carbohydrates with not enough fiber, protein, or fat can cause blood sugar to spike quite quickly. When blood sugar rises rapidly, the body releases insulin to move glucose into cells. But sometimes insulin overshoots slightly and blood sugar then drops quickly afterwards. That drop can leave you feeling shaky, tired, irritable, hungry again shortly after eating. And this is where gut health comes back into the picture, because fiber and gut bacteria play a huge role in blood sugar regulation. Fiber will slow digestion down. It slows glucose absorption into the bloodstream, and gut microbes influence hormones that regulate appetite and insulin sensitivity. Research published in Cell Metabolism has shown that gut microbes influence how individuals respond to different foods, and blood sugar responses can vary dramatically between people depending on their microbiome. This is the one reason why two people can eat the same meal and have very different energy responses afterwards. We are all so uniquely different. It's crazy. Like, not one diet is going to suit the same person how it suited like your neighbor, if that makes sense. So if your neighbor was eating an apple and you were eating an apple, you might both respond differently to eating that apple. We are so uniquely different, and so are our microbes. And that's the exciting part of the science that's coming through with nutrition that we're learning. And I'm sure the technology is going to get even more advanced with that. Now we need to talk about something that modern life has dramatically changed, and that is chronic stress. Your digestive system works best when your body is in the parasympathetic nervous system state, often called the rest and digest mode. But many people live most of their lives in the opposite state, the sympathetic nervous system, also known as fight or flight. Now, when your brain perceives stress, whether it's work pressure, lack of sleep, emotional stress, rushing through your meals, and constantly being on your phone, which is a big one, your body prioritizes survival functions and digestion becomes less of a priority, because your body just wants to keep you safe. When it's under threat, when it's under stress, it's not going to spend time trying to digest food right now. Basically, it's just trying to keep you alive and it's trying to survive. So blood flow shifts away from the digestive organs. Digestive enzyme production can decrease. Gut motility can change. And over time, chronic stress can influence the gut microbiome and increase intestinal permeability, sometimes referred to as leaky gut. And you've probably heard that a lot. Dr. Ermin Mayer, a leading researcher in the gut-brain connection at UCLA, actually explains the gut and brain are connected through an intricate communication network known as the gut-brain axis. So stress signals from the brain can directly influence the gut environment, And when digestion becomes impaired, nutrient absorption and microbial balance can actually suffer, which again circles back to energy. Because if digestion is compromised, the body is less efficient at extracting energy from food. Another reason why managing your stress as best you possibly can is so important for your nutrition outcomes. If you want to feel more energized from the food that you eat, you need to try and find ways to manage your stress as best you can. Whether that's learning how to breathe properly, which is a massive one for a lot of people, about 60%, I'm pretty sure that was the latest statistic, of people are not breathing properly. We need to be breathing in through our nose and out through our nose, and a lot of people are mouth breathers. This causes massive stress on your system and your body. And there has been studies done on this where this one particular guy, he's so passionate about breathing and how its connection to health and its connection to disease. And he did a test where he siliconed his nostrils and mouth breathed for, I think it was like 10 days or 12 days. And his age, like his biological age, it actually got worse. Like he became older than what he actually was. He described feelings of feeling exhausted. He felt like shit, basically. And this was based on him going from being a nasal breather to a mouth breather. Now, someone can have 9 hours sleep and they can be breathing through their mouth that whole entire night and wake up feeling exhausted even though they've hit a 9 hours sleep. So things like breathing really make a massive impact on our stress in our body, and that in turn will affect how you absorb nutrients from your food and how your gut digests food well. Then you've got external stress. So, if work is stressful and you're not managing, you're not coping with the load, you need to use your powerful voice that you are gifted with and communicate to make sure that you're managing things for you. Because you cannot carry on in a stressed state. You're only going to end up burning out and probably giving up. Whereas you're better off to go, I need to communicate with my workplace to make things a little bit less stressful for me, or maybe I need to start a little bit later so I don't have to sit in traffic, or maybe we need to have less meetings and be a little bit more productive with our work so that I'm not feeling so stressed, so that I can cope better with my workload and I can still go home and make time for my family. You've got to use your communication skills or learn to use that powerful voice you are gifted with so that you can make sure you're managing your stress as best you can, because it affects your health so much, more than we realize, I think, sometimes. So moving on from that, we need to actually touch on caffeine, because this is where many women end up in a cycle. They wake up tired, they reach for coffee, the caffeine stimulates the nervous system and temporarily increases alertness. Caffeine works primarily by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain, which are involved in promoting sleepiness. So caffeine creates a temporary sense of energy, but it's not actually creating energy. It's masking fatigue and it's helping you to push through, which is making you kind of a part of the push through burnout culture, which is something we need to try and change in our world because it doesn't work for our physiology or our biology. So we need to make sure that we're not using caffeine to just carry on and push through. Caffeine, for me personally, is something I love. It's like a pleasure thing. I definitely don't use it to push through. And if I'm exhausted, I probably won't drink any more than 1 coffee a day. I purely love it for my morning ritual, but it's not something I rely on to create energy because it's false. It's not real energy. And I see a lot of people start their day on a V or a Red Bull or a Monster or a coffee, and they're like surviving on these energy drinks. And these people that I see and witness and work with end up being the ones that struggle the most to either lose weight and maintain weight management, or they're really inflamed and puffy and have sore, achy joints. That is your body trying to communicate with you that it is fucking exhausted and it needs you to listen and it needs you to take action on actually filling your body with a nourishing breakfast and forgetting about the energy drink. Now, I'm not saying you're not allowed to have them at all, but what I'm saying is if you're relying on that for your energy, that is a massive sign you need to take some kind of action. And the first place for you to start is by having a well-balanced breakfast. Okay, don't overcomplicate it for you, don't overcomplicate it for yourself, especially if you are finding it hard already to even think about giving up that morning drink of caffeine. But that is not a healthy start to your day, and it is not going to help you thrive and feel your best. Okay, so I'm saying that with love because I want you to create real energy through the food that you eat, through the lifestyle that you live, rather than crashing and burning from surviving off energy drinks. That's only so far you can go before that really hits you. Okay? So when the underlying causes of fatigue are actually related to blood sugar instability, poor gut health, chronic stress, inadequate sleep, and underfueling, caffeine can become a daily crutch rather than a tool. And many women find themselves needing it coffee in the morning, mid-afternoon, mid-morning, just to maintain baseline energy. And sometimes caffeine can actually exacerbate gut symptoms. For some people, caffeine can increase gut motility, trigger reflux, or even worsen digestive comfort. So while caffeine can absolutely have a place in a balanced lifestyle, it's actually worth asking yourself, am I drinking coffee because I enjoy it? I enjoy the ritual. I love the smell. I love the taste. Or am I just doing it because I need to function? So a bit of food for thought there, okay? So if you're someone who feels tired despite eating well, it may be helpful to look at a few deeper questions. How diverse is your diet? Are you eating enough fiber to feed your gut microbes? Are your meals balanced with protein, fiber, healthy fats, and carbohydrates? Are you eating regularly enough to support stable blood sugar? Are you under chronic stress? Are you rushing meals or eating in a relaxed state? Because energy isn't just about calories. It's about metabolic efficiency. It's how well your body can digest food, absorb nutrients, regulate blood sugar, support your microbiome, and convert nutrients into cellular energy. Now, if you're feeling confused and overwhelmed by everything that I'm discussing in the gut health series, because it is quite a complex organ and it is quite a complex thing, then I would love for you to go to the show notes and download my free gut health guide. It is a complete guide to get you started on nourishing your gut microbiome so that you can start feeling energized and start having the energy that you know your body and your brain and your soul is so capable of and also deserving of. So download that guide. It is completely free. You'll just need to pop in your email address so I can send you through the PDF, but it is going to be a great guide to get you started on looking after yourself, your well-being, and most importantly, your gut. If there's one takeaway from today's episode, it's this. Feeling energized isn't just about eating healthy foods. It's about creating an internal environment where your body can actually use those foods effectively. And that's where gut health becomes such a powerful foundation. Because when the gut is functioning well, nutrient absorption improves. You actually have energy from the micronutrients you're eating. Blood sugar becomes more stable. No more energy crashes, no more relying on caffeine because you actually genuinely just feel so good. Inflammation decreases, which makes movement easier, which makes feeling yourself and feeling good in your clothes easier because you don't feel puffy and inflamed and sore and your joints don't ache. And energy can feel far more consistent because you're not relying on caffeine and you're not literally getting up at the last minute you have to, rushing and just starting the cycle again. Because you're fueling your body well, you're fueling your gut well, which in turn is giving you a consistent energy that is long-lasting. So, in the next episode of the Gut Health series, we're going to be discussing gut health and weight management without diet culture. We're going to be reframing the weight conversations in a safe, empowering way, talking about gut bacteria and metabolism, why weight loss can stall despite perfect tracking, inflammation, water retention and digestion, and also why focusing on calories is actually missing the bigger picture when it comes to nutrition and when it comes to overall health and well-being. If you've been enjoying the Gut Health series, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Turn on that notification bell. Leave me a 5-star review if you are feeling kind and you want to give me a little review because it really, really helps this little tiny podcast get itself out there. And I really, really appreciate every single one of you that are tuning in every single week and month. It makes me so happy when I get the stats come through at the end of every week, knowing that people are actually listening to this content. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm also really proud of you for listening to these podcasts and learning more about your health, your body, and your well-being so that you can apply these tools and you can apply this information that we're discussing so that you can have a healthier, more energized life and don't feel like you're constantly having to guess your way through better health. So if you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend who is always saying, maybe I eat healthy, but I'm still exhausted. Share with them the knowledge of when you fuel your gut well and you feed your microbes well, you're actually going to improve your energy. You're going to improve your nutrient absorption. But if you're not eating enough vegetables and you're not eating enough fiber, that's probably not going to help you with your energy. Or if you're running on caffeine, say to your friend maybe, hey, are you having breakfast? And then send them this podcast. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. Remember, sometimes the missing link isn't food itself, it's what's happening inside your gut. And I would love to know if you have any feedback. Send me a message on Instagram, send me an email. If you're in my newsletter list or you're not in my newsletter list, sign up down below in the show notes. I'll leave that link there for you. But I'd love to hear from you. And I'd also love to hear from you if there's anything in particular that this year you're so keen on learning more about. And I will make sure to include some episodes in the podcast this year. Thank you so much for listening. You're amazing. And I look forward to having you join in the next one. Thanks for listening to the Well Body Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review or share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can find more support, resources, and information on my website at www.beyondthebody.co. Until next time, I look forward to having you in the next episode.